Hi, I'm Mary Marinville, and it's February, and February is known for Valentine's Day and romance, and what goes better with romance than a little wine. And I am so excited and feel very privileged that I'm here with the winemaker Jim Binns. He's very well known in the winemaking industry. How are you?
Hi.
Nice
Thank
to
you for
meet
coming.
you.
Welcome, SeeAg.
Thank you, and thank you for having us. This is a real honor and privilege, and I don't know a lot about wine, but I'm sure you're going to help me today, and I'm going to learn a lot right now. How did you get involved with viticulture and winemaking?
Well, I got involved in viticulture and winemaking when I was going to school at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. The big industry up there. A lot of the college kids are very interested in it, and it's fun to work in the tasting rooms and have wine tasting groups. So started getting kind of exposed to it there. I was an ag business major, and a lot of those wineries were looking for marketing people, and so kind of thought it was a natural fit, agriculture and marketing in a winery. So I started getting involved in wine, and then kind of fell in love with it. Started working in the cellar. Kind of more of a dirty hands kind of guy. So working in the cellar, working in the vineyard, gaining more aptitude and understanding of the industry, and just kind of stuck with it and kept working hard, and things worked out. I gained more and more appreciation for the area and the grapes and the different grape varietals, and eventually worked my way up to now owning my own winery.
More appreciation for the land and how they grow and what it takes to grow a fine grape.
Yeah, exactly. More of an understanding of the different soil compositions that we have on the coastal range, more of an understanding of the different microclimates, which areas are kind of warmer, which are best suited for certain varietals, which areas are cooler that are, more suited for some of the cooler climate varietals, and then just learning just kind of the nuances of planting and row direction and roast vine spacing and crop load and all the other elements that go into viticulture, which ultimately what turns into a good wine. There's an old adage in the wine industry that you can't make good wine off of bad grapes, and that's something I firmly believe. So, I first and foremost work in the vineyard to try to grow the best grapes I can, so that I have a good starting point.
Is that what you're most particularly passionate about, is in the vineyard? I know it takes both the vineyard and where we are right now, the winemaking process, but are you more passionate about the grapes on the land?
I don't know if I would say I'm more passionate about either side. I think I am probably more passionate in the grape side than most winemakers are. I do, like being out there. I grew up in an agriculture background, so working outside comes very natural to me, and I think it's a lot of fun. Some wineries, the winemaker kind of takes charge once the grapes are harvested. That's not the way I work. I like to be involved in the vineyards and making all the decisions as to how they should grow, how they should be pruned, how much of a crop should be on there, and all the other decisions need to be made. I like to make those decisions so that I can be confident in what I'm going to start with. It's a great chef is going to always go try to find the best ingredients, for his meal. And I think that winemaking has got a very similar to that, in that you're going to always want to find the right grapes that are grown in the right way, to make the kind of wine that you want to make.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been working in the wine business for 15 years. I've been working in Ventura County for the last 11 years.
And have you won any awards?
I won a few awards when I was a kid playing baseball, but no, I don't get a lot of awards in the wine business. The winery that I work for before starting this, is a very critically acclaimed winery, and although they don't get awards, they're recognized for the quality level that they're at.
And that winery is Sinquanon. And but when did you realize? When was the moment that you realized, hey, I'm good at this? Did you have that moment?
Yeah, I think as time went by, as I think you gain more confidence when you're having conversations with other winemakers or seeing the things that they do, and through those conversations it kind of reaffirms your understanding of what you're doing and your expertise on this craft of winemaking. And so I think just keeping my head down and working hard, reading and paying attention to all the decisions that are being made, you start to gain a lot of self-confidence through that knowledge and of course the results that you get from your hard work.
Right. What varietals are you known for? What is Jim Binns famous for?
Well, Andremely only makes one wine. It's a Syrah wine. It's it's Syrah with a bit of Viognier and Mourvedre in it, and that's what Andremely is known for. But in general, I'm involved in Rhone varietal wines, which is Syrah and Grenache and Viognier and Roussanne, and therefore those are varietals coming from the Rhone Valley of France. So that's really where the most of my work is with Rhone varietals. I've worked with some of the other varietals, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay and Cabernet and Merlot and stuff, but for the most part, the Rhone varietals is where my passion's at, and those are the kind of wines I like.
Why the Rhone varietals?
Well, because that's what I like to drink.
Is it a more complex? Is your palate more refined, and is it a more complex grape?
Well, I think that's the wine expression that I like, and those are the kind of wines that I find myself drinking and enjoying.
Well, that makes sense. You're going to make what you like to drink.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't like what you're making, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble, because
Right.
If somebody else doesn't like it, you're going to be stuck drinking it. So you better make something you like.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I don't want to bring Cinquenan up again, but you are the chief winemaker for them, and now you founded Andromely, and it's you told us earlier where you got the name. So I want you to tell us again, and tell us a little bit more about Andromely. And
well, Andromely's was named after my kids. My wife Rachel and I have two children, Andrew, who's 5, and Emily, who's 3. And when we're trying to come up with a name for our winery, my sister-in-law suggested Andromely. And so kind of felt like it stuck.
it's a beautiful name.
Thank you. Yeah, I really liked it. I think people have really responded well to it. It's it's exciting to have it named after our kids. We love them, and they're sort of the center of our universe.
And you found it. That's so nice. And of course, at SeeAg, we love kids. So now, when did you found it? When did you start?
In 2012 was our first harvest at Andromely. We kind of started the ball rolling in 2011 with licensing and starting the corporation and those things. In 2012 was our first harvest, and we've recently bottled that first wine, and it's set to be released in the next 2 weeks. We've already sold it to our customers, and we're just getting ready to ship it. Well, it took a little bit of work, but it's
How many
also
cases are you releasing?
250 cases for our first production. So it's a small winery, so not that hard to get rid of.
Well, they don't call those small anymore, Jim. They call those boutique wineries.
Okay.
And so, tell us about the vineyard, White Hawk and Larner. Is that where your grapes are grown?
Yeah, so we have contracted. The way our operation works is we, in the wine business or in the grape business, there's kind of 2 ways a winery can go about purchasing grapes. They can either do it on a tonnage basis, which means you find a vineyard you like, and you just buy, they grow the grapes, and then you can buy, a ton or 2 tons, or however many you want.
So you contract out with them.
Yeah, so that would be one form of contract. Another form of contract is the kind that we use, which is by acres. So we, instead of having them farm it and make the decisions, we take all the grapes that are grown on a certain section of the vineyard, and then we make the decisions on how it should be farmed.
So you're responsible.
Yeah, so we're responsible if there's a crop failure or something. That's on us. We're the ones that are out the vintage. So we have that style of contract with Larner and Larner Vineyards and White Hawk Vineyards. both of which we grow Syrah on, and two different clones of Syrah, but those are them. White Hawk Vineyards is in Cat Canyon, which is up kind of between Buellton and Santa Maria.
Nice.
And then Larner Vineyards is in Ballard Canyon, which is right by Los Olivos.
Very cool, very cool. And so I'm very curious, every farm that I go to these days and every farmer I talk to, the big concern is water. Now, how has the drought affected the vines?
Well, the drought affects everything in agriculture. It affects everything in life. Without water, we're in a lot of trouble. For the style of farming that we do in this ultra premium wine, it has a little bit less of an effect than some of the more of a bulk or commercial large scale operation, because we already limit our crop loads to try to boost concentration in our grapes.
Right.
So we don't do a lot of watering, and we don't have a lot of fruit that needs to get ripened on there, because we want a very little bit of fruit that ripens and creates very flavorful wine.
Right.
If we were going to be trying to produce a vine that has a large crop on it, it's going to take a lot more water to ripen that, because you need to keep the leaves green so you can get the leaves can do photosynthesis, so it'll ultimately ripen those grapes.
Right.
So the water issue is a little bit less for us than some other people in the wine business. But that being said, water is important for everyone, and so water conservation is something that people need to practice in order to keep agriculture alive everywhere.
Right, right. I have a friend who's a winemaker, and I remember we got an early rain right before about the time of harvesting, and he was so distraught, to say the least, and stressed because of, like you said, the water was going to dilute the grape, and that was stressful for him. Speaking of harvesting, what do you look for when you go out to your vineyards and you are about to harvest, and what are you looking for and you know that the grapes are ready?
Well, as the vines, as the grapes are maturing on the vine, we'll continue to be sampling them and watching them, and making sure things are progressing the way we like. For ultimate harvest decisions, we sort of use a mix of feel, and we do analysis on the grapes. So we'll check the sugar content. We'll check the
Is that called the
pH.
bricks?
Yeah, the bricks is what they use to measure sugar. We'll check the pH. We'll check the TA, the total acidity. Try to, there are certain numbers you want to hit, or parameters that you want the grapes to be within a certain range usually. But above and beyond that, it's taste. We're making a product that's meant to be tasted, so we're going off of taste, right? We want the grapes to taste the way we think they should taste. We're looking for ripe grapes that have
So you're
good flavor.
you're actually walking around the vineyard and you're tasting a grape here and a grape there.
Yeah, we'll walk the rows. We'll take some clusters. We'll usually pull 50 clusters out of the vineyard at random spots, so that we can kind of get an idea what the whole vineyard block, how ripe it is, where it's at chemically, and then also tasting to make sure it's not too tart, or it tastes ripe, or it's not overripe. Hopefully not overripe, because there's at that point nothing you can do. You can't turn the clock back.
And your Syrah grapes, when do you harvest those? Are those late September, early October, or later?
It varies. Larner Vineyard's in a much warmer or a bit warmer area than White Hawk Vineyard. So we'll usually pick White Hawk Vineyard maybe 2 weeks before or after we pick Larner Vineyard. But it usually happens October, beginning of October is sort of the sweet spot for the Central Coastland Syrah.
Great, great. I know the vines are dormant right now. They're just, they start budding in the beginning of March.
They'll probably, obviously weather dependent, but around that time.
So now let's get to the fun part. Not that the agriculture is not fun, but let's get to the winemaking itself. Now, do you think of winemaking as a science or an art, or both?
Well, I actually don't. I think of it more of like a craft.
A craft.
Just like a chef, would be learning the craft of cookery, and of course, there's an element of art that goes into it. There's certainly an element of farming that goes into it as well. There's a lot of different hats that a winemaker needs to wear. But I really feel like in my opinion, it's more like a craft. You're just learning, and honing your craft. Like, there's a lot of furniture makers in the world. Some make very beautiful furniture, and some just make something to sit on. And so,
I'm glad that you said that, because you're right. There's those big batch wineries, and that's sometimes, when I'm on a monthly budget and I go to the store, I'm buying that $10 bottle of wine because that's what I can afford. But when you're getting to your level, it does become more of an art. But isn't there a big chemistry project going on in here right now?
Yeah, the wines are stored in barrel for a reason. There is a lot of chemical changes happening. Bonds are changing, molecules. So they don't just sit in the barrels for fun. There's a lot of stuff happening while they sit in the barrel. And then of course we make adjustments as the wines age, to try to, shepherd them along to the wine we want to make.
Adjustments like?
Different things can be done. Aerating the wine, or adding agents to the wines if some winemakers do. Different things you can take. There's sediment that happens in the barrels that we'll take it off, and so just different things that happen throughout the year to kind of shepherd the wine along to eventually bottling.
Great. Okay, now what's the advantage of blending? Earlier you were talking about, using different blends. What's the advantage of blending like a Grenache with? The advantage to blending, the process of blending, or the hope the reason why someone would do blending is they want to try to balance out a wine, right? So if you have a certain vineyard that's very expressive, with pepper, you have another vineyard that has a very, blueberry flavor. If you blend them together, hopefully you marry the two, and you end up with something that's a little bit more complex. Hopefully, improves the wine. You would never want to blend something together if the end result wasn't right, so
wasn't
you might
superior.
have something that's got a little edge and something that's mellow, and you bring them both together, and it creates perfection in a way.
Right. If you had a lot that was very acidic, for instance, it was very tart, and you had another lot that maybe was lacking in acid. If you put the two together, you hopefully will end up at a point that they're now balanced. One isn't lacking in acid, and one's not heavy in acid. They now have a correct or a good acid level.
Right. I do try to drink some French wines on occasion. I like Sancerre, some Bordeaux, of course, and a lot of people talk about California wines versus French wines, and that California wine that's about sugar and less about about the fruit. Can you and the alcohol, the high alcohol content that us Southern California or people in California like, or in the United States like? Can you explain the difference between the French wines and the California wine?
Well, I don't know if I can. I don't know if there's a big difference. Obviously, one's made in France, one's made in the United States. There's a whole range of wines made in the United States, and there's a whole range of wines made in France. If you kind of wanted to lump a whole group or a whole country of wines together, then you maybe could come up with some sort of observation. But there's wines made in France that are very high in alcohol, and some that are very low in alcohol, and the same in the United States. Some are high in alcohol, some are lower in alcohol. The grape varietals we use are pretty similar or if not the same.
So it's not an easy comparison. You'd have to.
Yeah, I mean, it would be more, comparing one wine to another wine would be easier than comparing one country to another country.
Right.
I think, I think it's there. You can find examples of just about any wine style from either continent.
Before we go over and try some wines, which I'm really excited about doing, my last question is, what is the most frequent mistake that winemakers make? Not you, Jim, but all the rest of the others.
Well, I don't know. I'm not there when they're making their mistakes, so I'd help them. But, I think that, the element that we touched on earlier where they don't spend enough time in the vineyard definitely plays a factor in the style of wine or the quality of wine that some people make. I think that, I can't express enough how important the farming aspect is and how managing the vines and your crop load, how much that affects the final product that you're going to make. It's sort of starting the job when it's half done. If you only take the grapes, you've already missed half the show.
I could see that. So if you're letting making someone else responsible for the grapes that you are going to use in your wine, and that's half of the process, I bet that is a very frequent mistake.
Yeah.
Actually, I lied. I have one more question for you. So you're a very accomplished winemaker. This is an adventure for you. Andromeda is a new adventure, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
What do you hope to accomplish going forward? What would you like to see for yourself and your family? And
well, I like to just continue to push for the highest quality I can. Grow every year. We're always trying new things and trying to gain a little bit more understanding of what we're doing, a little bit more understanding of the region that we're growing grapes in, and how to navigate the variations between vintages, because every year Mother Nature sends us a new group of variables, and we have to try to navigate them and get our grapes to grow the way we want, and ultimately make a wine that we're proud of. So my ambition or goals is just to continue to grow and learn and make wines that I'm proud of, and then hopefully my customers are also proud of. So that's really what I'm working toward, is just trying to make the best wine I can, and something that I'm proud of.
so a synchronicity with Mother Nature, and so thank you. And now we're going to go taste some wine. I'm really looking forward to it.
All right.
Yeah.